Deep dive, the story behind the numbers. Markets move fast, too fast. One small change, one quiet signal, and everything shifts. Deep dive doesn't just keep up, it gets ahead. We track the signals before they become headlines. Deep dive, the story behind the numbers.
Some brands entertain us, some provoke us, some transform the way the world moves. We track the minds shaping these movements. From brands redefining markets to startups rewriting the rules, we uncover the stories and trends fueling the brand economy. Campaigns that go viral, products that change the game, ideas that spark culture. This is Brandverse, your window into the world that builds the brands.
Nearly $20 billion, that's the scale of semiconductor investments now committed across India. 10 major projects, 6 states, 4 projects in Gujarat alone. For decades, India consumed chips designed and manufactured elsewhere. Today, it is attempting something far more ambitious, building an entire semiconductor ecosystem from scratch. India's first commercial semiconductor facility is already operational, and across Sanand, Morigaon, Noida, and Chennai, a new industrial supply chain is beginning to take shape. But here's the real story. The semiconductor opportunity isn't one trade. It's 5 different businesses with 5 completely different economics. There's chip design, where margins are biggest, and India already holds a global advantage with nearly 20% of the world's semiconductor design talent. There's fabrication, the most capital-intensive stage, where billions are spent years before a single chip is produced. There's OSAT and packaging, the assembly and testing layer, where India is moving fastest and where multiple facilities are already operational or under development. Then comes electronics manufacturing services, the companies building the devices, telecom systems, EVs, and the defense electronics that will consume these chips. And finally, the hidden beneficiaries, specialty chemical makers, industrial gas suppliers, clean room infrastructure players, equipment vendors, power infrastructure companies, and logistics operators that enable the entire ecosystem. The stakes are enormous, but can India truly move from chip consumer to chip producer? Will the country become a serious global semiconductor player or remain largely an assembly destination? And where exactly are the biggest opportunities emerging across the semiconductor value chain? On Deep Dive, we decode India's semiconductor ambition, the players, the projects, the bottlenecks, and the investment opportunities. Hello and welcome to Deep Dive. My guest today is Sandeep Kumar, who is the Chief Executive at L&T Semiconductors Technologies. Mr. Kumar, thank you very much for joining us today on ET Now. To begin with, sir, give us a perspective of where India stands on the semiconductor value chain, and where are we headed according to you?
I think India has made very good progress over the last, 4 or 5 years since this semiconductor initiative was promoted by Prime Minister Modi ji. So we now have significant traction on the OSAT, which is packaging, which is uh, critical in the supply chain and also the basis for how a lot of Southeast Asia developed in the semiconductor value chain. We have silicon fabs being built, which is a very big accomplishment because that's a very high capital intensive project which a lot of people and major corporations shied away from over the last 15 years, so or last 40 years for that matter. So that's a big uh, achievement by India, and of course, there's a lot more to be built, but there's always a beginning. In the design and product side, now there is a big push, and hopefully over the next couple of years, you will start seeing results from that. L&T Semiconductor was one of the first ones that said we will try to build a Indian based product company, and we are well on that journey. And then you have the EDA tools and IPs, where we will continue to, on the EDA side, I think we will continue to rely on the global companies. That part of the system, not many countries in the world have uh, really managed to build their own. And the two or three companies that do these tool sets dominate. And then the IP side, there is effort going on to build that IP portfolio in India through a variety of government initiatives into CDAC, IITs, and startups. Finally, on the equipment and chemicals required for the fabs, I think that portion is again initiative that is being pushed in the as part of the ISM 2.0. So overall, for a nation that kind of started only 3, 4 years ago, I think the build out of the value chain is quite amazing, to be frank. And hopefully it will, continue to grow, and, we will be there. That is the mission, that's the goal.
Mm. Uh, Mr. Kumar, if you look at the entire value chain, and you gave us a good sense of the various phases or various stages of the entire value chain, the design part is something where I think India has a much better advantage. Uh, how do you see this segment growing, and what is the kind of value creation that would be there for in the design part compared to other segments where it's very capital intensive?
I think there is uh, I will clarify with a couple of points. Number one, design uh, may appear to be not capital intensive, but in reality, it is as capital intensive, if not more, than the manufacturing. The difference is that in manufacturing and fab and OSAT, there is a consolidated single company, single fab, big ticket item. In design, you will need hundreds of companies created because no single company can produce the 10,000 plus products that have to be made. So the capital required is probably more. However, it has to be distributed and spread out across a larger pool of people. So any single company does not, put in the same amount of capital as in a fab. But even to build a single processor chip, the development ticket can run from 500 million to $1 billion to put the whole ecosystem for a server chip in place. So it is quite capital intensive. Now, the second point that you are making is, the referring to is the design talent in India, and there's no doubt there is a lot of design talent in India. However, to build a product company, that design talent needs to be complemented or enhanced by the ability to define products. That talent is still a gap on the architecture and definition, understanding of the market, taking the product to market, building up the sales channel, building up the operations channel and the production and supply chain, even if it is fabless. So we have to be careful in saying that because we have a large design pool, talent pool, therefore we can automatically become a product nation. That doesn't mean we can't. What it means is we have to put the remaining elements in place to convert that design talent into successful companies that are created that are product companies.
At L&T Semiconductors, how are you looking at this entire design challenge and building up this capability?
I think we are, like I said, in the product area, there are, over 10,000 product areas that can be built. So, we have decided that, as we build out, we are focusing on certain segments of the product areas. So we're working on power semiconductors. We are working on communication and RF modules, as well as some RF components, and then we are working on compute and data center products. Compute can include vision, can include motor control, and finally we have some products rolling out in the analog and mixed signal space. But those are very targeted ASICs for a specific applications, as opposed to a broad base push on all kinds of analog semiconductors.
And do you see
We
that?
believe that these three markets are the fastest growing, number one, and number two, of strategic value to the country, where presence is important, uh, and domestic supply and product is important. And globally, they're also the largest, fastest growing areas. So building that kind of capability will enhance our position, not just in India, but globally.
Mm, the other one which is there is in fabrication, because we already have a couple of big players already putting in massive capital, setting up fabrication there. Uh, do you see, uh, this capital which has been put into place enough to manage the kind of demand which we have now, or is just a start and we will take more companies to come in and set up those fabrication levels?
It's just a start. I mean, to put in perspective, the leader in the world on the fabrication is TSMC, and they are investing over $100 billion a year in capital, right? So, the in order to you know scale up, and similarly in China they are building significant fab capacity. So yes, I think a lot more capital is needed and a lot more build out is needed, but you have to start somewhere. It doesn't necessarily mean that more companies have to come, because running fabs and foundries is not the same as building product companies. Even today, globally, there are only uh, 5 or 6 companies that are operating fabs. Even in China, it is 3 companies, and then outside of China, there's 4 companies. So the fab build out and expertise is generally concentrated. So if we build 2 or 3 companies, will have to build out a lot of the fabs. That's the way I see it, as opposed to every company is building out one fab.
Fourth, the segment is basically the EMS players, the electronic manufacturing services players, where they are the users of it as well. Uh, where do you see that ecosystem is now well developed in India?
I think the EMS side is, there's more to be done, but it is uh, very well done. So there is, especially with the Tata's, Apple, it was a significant scale up. Now, where the things probably need to evolve on the EMS side is high density, very complex products like servers are still not manufactured in India, and that requires a different level of manufacturing capability. It will come, but it needs to be built out. I think more importantly, the EMS is not directly the user of the products. EMS is a manufacturing operation similar to a fab, and where India needs to expand its investments and excite people is to build systems and products that will use the EMS capability. And that is where I feel, just like on the IC side, design product companies need to be built out. Similarly, on the system side, product companies need to be built out.
if you look at the entire value chain, and it's very well said that if you look at the design capabilities, it comes from the US. If you're looking at the manufacturing equipment capabilities, that comes from European countries. And if you're looking at the foundries, it comes from the Asian markets like Taiwan and other China. Where can you put India in that bit? Maybe not now, but maybe 5 years or 10 years down the line, how India will fit into that entire ecosystem?
Um, the entire ecosystem is quite interconnected globally, right? So I think to say that design comes from the US, it is true, but maybe, if I look at the global scene, half or 60% of the design comes from the US, but 40% comes from outside the US. Similarly, if we look at equipment, yes, there is one company in Europe, but actually there's multiple companies in Asia and Japan, as well as in the US, Applied Material, Tokyo Electron, etc. So it's distributed around the world. Similarly, on the fabs, yes, Taiwan and China have become quite dominant, owning 60%, 70%. But then there is another, 30-40% sitting in the US and Europe. So it's not the trying to build, uh, area where India has a dominant position is too early. Now, first we have to build out the full ecosystem so that we can leverage. I think if we want to look at where in the future we can dominate or become prominent, let's say dominate is too strong. I would say we have to pick within the design and product areas, which particular product verticals we wish to become very significant. And those are I mean, everybody will have their own uh, path to it. And, L&T has chosen one path where we feel we can become a significant player in those areas. And same thing we could do on the system side. In fact, my feeling is, on the systems, the development cycles are shorter and the changes are very frequent, so it allows for the entry of new players to come in and become significant globally. And you've seen that happen with the ZTEs and Huawei's in China, or the super micros and Wistrons in Taiwan. So I think there is a play there that India should be looking at quite carefully and aggressively.
So, from the Indian company's point of view, which is very conscious about capital deployment and capital returns, where do you see the maximum value that emanate from in the entire supply chain?
I think uh, all companies around the world look at ROI and returns. The difference in India, maybe up till now, has been the uh, risk appetite of some of these areas is lower, and therefore, the risk return ratio is the same, but if you're taking a lower risk, you'll get a lower return. So, on the other hand, when you take a bigger risk, you can get a bigger return, but then there is always, more failures that will occur along the way. Not everybody will succeed as much. So, uh, within that framework, I mean, the electronic industry and in particular the technology industry uh, is a very aggressive rollout and taking at a macro level, it is worth taking the risks to get the returns. The returns are much larger as long as you are investing and taking the risks that you need to take. I think that's a evolving story. I would say India is moving, and private and public companies are moving in that direction. They just need to keep moving instead of this is it.
Mm. And how do you look at the cross dependence between countries with respect to the entire, design or chip design? Do you see that that will continue in the foreseeable future, uh, or there could be self-sufficiency also which can come in with respect to chip design?
I think self-sufficiency is a misnomer in the ecosystem. Uh, so, like I said, you at any given time, you have 10,000 different products with, hundreds of different process technologies and hundreds of different packaging technologies that are being used to build those products. And then you have the EDA tools and the chemicals and supply chain. So building self-sufficiency means you can do everything in-house. Not going to happen. But on any given system that is using semiconductors, you will need all kinds of products. So where one has to decide as a uh, is which of these areas we want to become significant players, uh, and that becomes then the core strength and becomes a let's call it a balancing act with things that we need to procure from outside and things we need to build in-house. And other countries also need to procure the things that you do, they need to procure from you. And so that's the interdependency that has to be built out. Right now, we are only dependent, we're not interdependent.
And
But
what
self-sufficiency is not a possible outcome. Interdependency is definitely the goal, or
and
should be the goal.
And how do you see other sectors playing a bigger role, whether it's in form of specialty chemicals, gases, or as you said, EDA tools, or other ancillary industries? Do you think that there is enough room for that industry to or that ecosystem to be built out?
I believe so. I think every part of the ecosystem uh, is going to grow because the overall demand is going to grow, and it is a full value chain. So there is no, I would say, no limitation on which areas will grow. Almost every area will grow equally. It's just that, the total volume on a product, because the product is the end game, when that doubles, then the fab capacity has to double, the chemical deployment has to double, etc. And not only is it a doubling over time, the big thing is that it is evolving continuously to the next generation. So uh, there is new chemicals, new equipment, new technologies, processes, new packages, new designs, and that enables a new country or some new entrant to take a position uh, that can be differentiated.
Mm. Finally, you've seen a lot of projects which is going on. Nearly $20 billion of commitments have come in across the value chain. Uh, there are at least uh, 10 top projects which are underway in India. Uh, do you see in the next 3 to 4 years you have the entire, may not be the as advanced value chain coming into play, but a significant amount of value chain coming into play and taking care of the domestic needs as well?
I think uh, that's something that has to be thought through, but there is definitely a pipeline on the fab and OSAT investments. And the question is, do you continue to invest more in that area, or do you try to build out the remaining ecosystem like equipment? Uh, And like I said, there is an interdependency that we cannot go away from. So the capital intensity in areas where we have started one approach would be to continue to maintain that capital intensity and build it up to scale instead of distributing the resources or capital across a broader segment. Uh, but it's not a clear, A or B answer. So one has to think through it. But yes, the we are on the path to building out some level of capability to serve our own needs, whether it is all the way down from rare earth mining to final product. I don't think it is, and I don't think it needs to be.
Mr. Kumar, it was a pleasure talking to you today, and thank you for joining us and giving us a perspective of where we are in the semiconductor value chain. Thank you for joining us on Deep Dive.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Bye
Thank you.
bye.
Bye.